Hey everyone, welcome back to JP's Budget Collecting and our weekly look back at the hot comics from 6 months ago. This week we're looking back at the hot comics from February 14th, 2025, and I'm recording this on August 14th, 2025. As always, these dates will show you know when this information is most relevant because the market is always moving and changing. Also, as always, we're looking back at the CBSI Hot Top 10 and the Comic Tom Key Collector Hottest Trending Comics of the Week. Each week they put out a list of 10 comics that are moving in the market, that are jumping in value, that are jumping in sales. And we come back 6 months later to see, should you have bought in? Should you have been patient? What factors made it so you should have been patient or you should have bought in? We've been doing this for 6.5 years. Where did the time go? But we're still going at it because for the most part, you guys still want it. So, we are... I say that all that every week. This week we got 17 books to talk about, and this is maybe the most positive week I will have done in 6.5 years. Didn't do the math and double check, but I don't remember being quite this good. So let's dig in and see if we can learn something new this week, maybe? We'll see. All right. First up, we got Invincible number 61, first appearance of Conquest. The Invincible show was coming out, season 3. Conquest was part of the show that was causing this book to hit the list. He hadn't come out yet, hadn't been, but we were getting to that point in the story. We were expecting him in season 3. That's why it was hitting the list. 80 to 160, 9.8, 285. Now, 110 to 190, 9.8, 275, 400. This book is still up from Season 3. Season 3 has been done for a long time, but Invincible has been super well received, and it is maintained here even 6 months later at a level we don't typically get, even from movies and stuff, that this animated series has been able to do. So it's very interesting. It also helped, I'm sure, that the Battle Beast comic kept Invincible just in the minds of folks, but this is Conquest, not Battle Beast, so it is definitely change the floor, at least for now, on this particular book. Next, we got Invincible number 51. This is just the first appearance of the blue costume that you see on the cover here. This was another thing that we were getting to that point in the story that was going to get the blue costume in season 3. And interestingly enough, this was a $15 book. This is the first time it hit the list, 9.8, 225. Now it's a $50 to $100 book, 9.8, 4 to 500. So clearly this is up, straight cash. This is our big winner of the week, obviously. And you're rarely going to get a book that's going to jump this much. And a reminder that he doesn't keep this costume. He goes back to the original during the series. But this book, a costume change that's not a living costume, that doesn't become its own character, continuing to go for this kind of value is super unusual. But just showing the power of maybe this animated series and how much people are just digging Invincible in general. But yeah, you don't, outside of the black suit, new costumes don't normally do anything like this. So definitely something unexpected that this one's going for this crazy amounts of money. Next, we have Wolverine number 8, classic patch, Mr. Fix-It cover. And yeah, this one was going for hitting the list. Why did it? Just a classic cover. Basically, their justification was that it had dropped in value. That was, sorry, I kind of forgot where I was going with this one for a minute. That it dropped in value enough that people were starting to buy it again. $100 raw sale on average, 9.8, 265. Now it's still a $50 to $100 book. 9.8, 235, 290. We're going to call it steady, and I'll be back mainly just because of the raw side. Obviously, the 9.8s are just steady and worth it. But this is obviously a classic Wolverine cover, cover a lot of people like. And yeah, just doing really, really well. Next, we got Magic number 1 from this Rivals variant that came out earlier this year. It was 35 to 50. It had been on the list a month or so ago when it first came out. It was back here in February. $35 to $50 at that point, and now it's a $60 to $80 book, 9.8, 100. Not a lot of sales on this one, but the sales that are out there are still going for really big value. Up in straight cash. Little surprise, we've talked about the other Rivals, and they have not. A couple of them have done, like the Spider-Man one has done pretty well, but it hasn't went up, continued to go up. This Magic cover has continued to jump in value. So another straight cash book here. Next, we have another one of these Rivals variants, not the design variant. This is the one with Jeff the Land Shark. Fantastic Four number 28. Well, this second week in a row that this was on the list. At this point, it was basically a $15 book, so it's not a huge value there. Now it's a $5 to $20 book, 9.8, 65. Most of the sales are probably under the 15 instead of over. But so we'll call it I'll Be Back versus Steady Worth It. But yeah, wasn't a huge dollar amount then. Still kind of holding in that similar range. Next, we have Mark Spears Monsters number 2. This open order cover became the kind of cover of choice that seemed to be the one that most people were chasing for issue number 2 at the time. Obviously, almost 6 months after it came out, not quite, maybe 4 months after it came out, $40 to $60 at that point. Now it's a $50 to $100 book, 9.8, 140 to 165. These Mark Spears Monsters continue to buck any normal trend that we get for any kind of comic, new release comics that are kind of indie comics. People just love this art. Apparently, maybe they love the story as well, but they love this art, and everything Mark Spears continues to come up gold for the most part. Next, we got The Century number 1. So we're moving into MCU, and we got a ton of MCU books to talk about this week. Century number 1, basically, we got a Thunderbolts trailer, was causing this to hit the list. $80 to $100, 9.8, 275. Now it's 50 to 90 on a raw copy. 9.8 though, 250 to 300. So we're call it steady and worth it. Maybe you could argue a little bit of I'll Be Back on the raw side, but yeah, Bob has been. I think he was portrayed super well in the movie, and is continuing to sit around these kind of around the trailer values at least, which has been a rare thing recently for a book, 3 or 4 months reviewed from the movie to still be sitting at similar values as it was when the trailer came out. Next, we have Daredevil number 2. Lost my place, 227. It's on the screen. While I'm looking down here in my notes. The start of the Born Again storyline. We knew the show was going to be called Born Again. And yeah, we hadn't got a trailer. We were about to get a trailer. We're getting more information that it was coming. $20 back then, 9.8, 135. Now 10 to 40, 9.8, 150 to 200. So this is actually an up and kind of worth it book. Still doing really well. Normally storyline books don't hold that well. I know this is a love story that already had some value and seems to be holding value here, even though the show has come and gone. But we know we're getting a season 2. But yeah, people are continuing to pay a little bit of a premium for this book. Next, we got Fantastic Four number 13, first appearance of the Watcher and Red Ghost. Obviously, the value of this book is really always been focused on the Watcher, but Red Ghost was rumored to be in the movie. As we've known now, that part really got cut for the most part. He gets mentioned, but there's no John Malkovich as the Red Ghost here. $200 to $500 back then, 5.5, 850. Now 1 to 500, and that 9.6 should have been deleted. That is not correct. But anyway, that should have been 5.5. But anyway, yeah. I mean, it's been steady. I'll be back kind of thing. Down a little bit, but not much. But really, that's because the book's value is based on the Watcher, not Red Ghost. Red Ghost didn't ultimately change the value of this book, which doesn't surprise anybody. Next, we got Earth X, number 12, first appearance of Shia LaBeouf as the Silver Surfer. So not her first appearance as Silver Surfer. 30 to 50 back then, 9.8, 220 to 260. Now, a month past the movie, not quite a month past the movie, close. We're looking at 30 to 50, 9.8, 2 to 300. I thought she was portrayed really well in the movie. So far, values on this book have remained steady. We'll see what happens as we move further away from the movie. If this book holds this kind of value, I would expect it to start becoming an I'll Be Back. But as of right now, at least, still worth it compared to where it was back in the spring. Or back in February, I should say. Next, we have Fantastic Four annual number 6. Obviously, Franklin was rumored back then. We got Franklin. Raw copies 100 to 125 back then, 70300. 25 to 250 on recent raw sales. So on a book this old, the raw, depending on the condition, can really throw those raw ones off. So let's look at this, like slab copies, 70360. So steady and worth it. That's up slightly, but if you look at a couple of other grades, it's pretty steady. Again, so very similar to the Shaw Ball thing. Spring pre-trailer hype, and then we get actual movie. Franklin's doing pretty well, staying in that same range. Next, Fantastic Four number 49 on the list for the second week in a row. Again, trailer stuff here. At this point, very similar to last week on all the sales, except for we had a high sale of a raw copy that went all the way up to $12.50. So we had a really nicer raw copy sell, which prompted that higher end there. Recently, we haven't had anything more than like a $5.50 sale. But yeah, steady and worth it here for this classic first full appearance of Galactus. In fact, Galactus was done really well in the movie as well. Next, we got Fantastic Four number 25. Second appearance of Captain America Silver Age, also Hulk versus Thing cover. Got a bump in sales. Not 100% sure, but even back then, what was prompting this particular book to jump in value, but it was 20 to 400 back then, 5.5, 360. Now basically 40 to 400, 5.5, 370. This is as steady as you can get for a comic book, particularly from one from the 60s. Don't know what prompted them to really put this on the list. They felt like maybe there was enough of a bump in sales that it deserved it. And yeah, it stayed right in the same value, but really the value didn't jump that much back then either. Next, we have Incredible Hulk number 256. Captain America Brave New World came out. First appearance of Sombra. She was in the movie. 20 to 60 back then. 9.8, 550. 5 to 30 now. 9.8, 3 to 425. 9.8 have actually held better than I would have thought, but still a trap. No reason to chase this book at the time of the movie for sure. Next, also second week in a row with the movie release, Captain America 25, first Sam as Captain America. This book was really not very expensive back then. It's even cheaper now, or slightly cheaper now. Yeah, I mean, you look at those 9.8, it crept back over $100 for the first time in a long time with the movie release, and now it's back down to a $50 to $75 book. I mean, at $50, you can't hardly get a copy and get it slabbed for $50 and get it shipped to and from CGC for $50. So yeah, the fact that this book is this cheap surprises me a little bit. Been a lot of backlash against this movie. I know a lot of people didn't like it. Came out when I was down and couldn't go. I still didn't even bother to watch it. So yeah, at some point I got to get it done just because. Next, we got Hulk number 1 from 2008. First cover appearance of Red Hulk. Reminder, he doesn't appear in this book, but we don't care as long as they're on the cover. That's how we decide which books we want. Raw copy 60 to 75 back then. 9.8, 250 to 300 with the movie release. Now 20 to 80. So similar range on the raw stuff, but obviously some lower value sales there. High end is similar, I should say, but low end is lower. 9.8, 175 to 300. Again, high end's is the same. Low end is a little bit lower. So we'll call this down and I'll be back because most of the sales were on the lower end of these, but it still did have a few sales up where it was at before. Next, we have, and last, I should say, our last book this week is Captain America 117. First appearance of Sam Wilson. 70 to 300 back then. 8.0, 550. 9.4, 25.50. No recent 9.4s to compare to, but I left that information in there. Now, recent raw sales, 15 to 200. 8.0, 4 to 500. So we're down and I'll be back. Great Silver Age book. Great character. But obviously, away from the movie, you can do just a little bit better. So that is this week's list. Had 17 books, but really only 4 books that were down. We're going to show the recap here that I almost forgot to add. So we're going to add it while we're doing this to see if this works, because I did forget to add the recap. So we'll see if this pops up. So, hey, there it is. Yeah, we actually had 5 up, 8 steady, 4 down, which is having more up and more steady than down. and having them be, 3/4 of the books is a big surprise. We don't typically have that kind of week. One of the better weeks we've ever had in terms of performance from these guys. A lot of that had to do with, the Invincible stuff has maintained really well. Several of these Fantastic Four books that are on the list are just very valuable books anyway. When you're talking about FF25, FF49, FF Annual 6, obviously the movie just came out. So an unusual week from that nature, but a week that did pretty well. It would have been a week that worth logging in. Before we get out of here, a quick shout out to my members. Big thank you to those folks who, keep the channel going. I really appreciate those guys. If you are a member, you get these pre-records released early, as well as opportunity to win my monthly giveaway and a few other things. So, and with that, we're going to get out of here. I want to thank you guys for watching, and we will catch you next time. Later.